Hello and welcome to day 9 of the Puro Joshi Advent Calendar here on the channel. My name is Peps and today we are opening another door into the world of Japanese pro wrestling in 2025 as we take a look at the year of KENTA. And KENTA's 2025 has been defined by a remarkable late career reinvention, a resurgence that reminded everyone why he's once again one of the best and most compelling strikers in pro wrestling after he once again joined Pro Wrestling Noah. And today in this video, we will take a closer look at KENTA's 2025 and how his renewed edge reshaped his standing in the eyes of many fans, including mine. And with that, I would say we jump straight into the video. And the first topic we'll be talking about is his match on January 1st, 2025 in Pro Wrestling Noah against Kenoh. And the story coming into the match was that in December, Kenoh talked about facing a lover, so to speak, at Nippon Budokan, and everyone was wondering, okay, who could it be? And Japanese fans quickly pointed out or speculated that it will be KENTA. And a few days after, at the New Japan show, World Tag League show, Kenoh made a shocking appearance and challenged KENTA to a singles match on January 1st in Nippon Budokan. And with that, it was official. The two will face off. KENTA will once again return home to Pro Wrestling Noah, and he did in style as he brought back his old theme and had a great match against Kenoh on this very day. Him and Kenoh just wrestled for like 15 minutes and they beat the hell out of each other with cool strikes, with cool kicks. And it was very obvious if you compare KENTA's Noah work, the few matches that he had in Noah during the time after joining New Japan, especially the one in, I believe it was January 1st, 2022, where he teamed with Sujiro-gun against Daiki Naba, Yoshiki Namura, and I believe it was Masaki Tamiya on the show that had a fantastic Nakajima vs. Goshizaki match, where Kenta and Itamura just had a fantastic stretch in the end and just killed each other. Or the other match that he had in 2023, I believe, the tag title match where he teamed with Marufuji against Kojima and Sugiura. I believe it was also very good. You just notice, and that is my point I'm trying to make, that New Japan is just a job for him, while Noah is at home, is his home. He just looks so locked in. He just looks so focused, and he hasn't been like that in New Japan a very long time. So I enjoyed this one and this match in general more than I thought I would, compared to his New Japan work that has been solid at best for the past couple of years. One match that stood out to me in New Japan was his G1 Climax match in 2023. The match against Will Ospreay, where they had this crazy sequence that went viral a couple of times on social media, where people say, oh, he locked, like Ospreay locked in the old KENTA again and stuff like that. This was one of the few matches I really enjoyed. KENTA won the match in around 15 minutes in a very good outing, and Kenoh kind of invited him, like, hey, you want to team with me? And Kenoh walked away. So, but at that point, it felt like, okay, something is going on here. And on the next show, on January 2nd, on Pro Wrestling Noah, kind of New Year's Dash, so to speak, their show in Shinjuku Face, Noah Reboot 2025. After the main event, where Kaito Kiyomiya and Kenoh defeated Daga and Osawa in a 2-2 tag team match, Kenoh and Kaito Kiyomiya were laid out by Team 3000X, and none other than KENTA came out to the save for Kenoh and Kaito Kiyomiya and shook hands with Kenoh on this very day, so their tag team, so to speak, started. A very interesting angle because it was still signed to New Japan at that point, so no one really knew, okay, how often is he going to be in Noah in the first place? And on 2 days after, he wrestled at New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom 19 show in the Rambo. He just trolled a little bit and something like that, and then had his final match for New Japan 2 days after at New Year's Dash, where he tapped out to Kushida ahead of Kushida, of course, facing Takeshita. And it felt like a rare win for Kushida that he could move up to a weight division, but it was more or less a goodbye, so to speak, for KENTA. As backstage, he put his hands together backstage with the cameraman, made a heart shape and said, see you again somewhere, bye-bye, before heading to the waiting room. And everyone was kind of like, okay, that is interesting. It felt like he's gone, something like that, right? And he Then, shortly after, a month after, Kenta officially signed with Pro Wrestling Noah and makes his grand return to his home, the place where he wrestled for the majority of his career, where he joined after departing All Japan Pro Wrestling and became the top guy that everyone clearly see him in the 2000s. One of the best wrestlers in the world before he went to WWE. It was a cool way to see that he is signing with Noah again and officially announcing his return to the promotion 12 years after. That started then in Noah a couple of times with Kenow to build up a little bit of a tag team there. And then he also took Ulka Sasaki under his wing. And that really started after these two fought each other at a Hurricane Hall show on March 22nd, 2025, where Kenta defeated Ulka Sasaki with the GTS on the same show where I believe it was Osawa faced Masaki Tamina for the GHC Heavyweight title. And that match between Kenta and Ulka Sasaki was not like outstanding, but it was a cool, solid undercard 6.5 out of 10 match that I really enjoyed. From then on, Ulka Sasaki joined the group, so to speak, between Kenta and Kenow. And in the main event after, Kenta then challenged Osawa to a GHC Heavyweight title match at Noah's 25th anniversary show in Ryogoku Kokugikan. And from then on, the majority of the tag team matches moving forward were Kenow, Kenta, and Ulka defeating Team 3000X, and it even led to a no disqualification main event match in the Hurricane Hall where Kenta and Kenow defeated Osawa and Tetsuya Endo around 25 minutes, and a really solid outing, I would say, for no DQ match. I'm kind of always a bit weird on no DQ matches with Kenta after the one that he had against Tanahashi, where both kind of like fucked each other's career for like the next 12 months or so with whatever bumps they took. And then it all led to, of course, the big Sumo Hall match that we were talking about. And the Sumo Hall match against Osawa was really the first major outing that Kenta has ever since coming back to pro wrestling in the main event scene. In a Sumo Hall main event in 2025, a spot that you would never expect Kenta to get again after his last couple of years. But here in the main event of North's 25th anniversary, he was once again in the main event against Osawa. And personally, I really liked this match. It was my favorite Osawa defense to that day because especially the opening stretch was very well worked as Kenta took over the pacing in the dominant phase, which is kind of always a struggle with Osawa, or like was a struggle with Osawa, that he really hasn't figured out how to open his matches. So Kenta took over the role and it worked really great. The finishing stretch on top was fantastic. I bid for like every single near fall, and in interference spots were greatly timed, where they pulled off the referee and everything like that. It didn't feel like too much. I thought that everything that they had in this match were kind of stuff that the other Osawa matches and Osawa defenses lagged or weren't really as done as they were here. So overall, I would say this was a great outing for Kenta and Osawa, and especially a successful Sumo Hall show as they drew over 4,500 people to the return up to the Sumo Hall, which is like a very big number. It's like up 1,000, I believe, compared to last year, where Kaito won the GHC heavyweight title from El Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. Wrestle Magic, even though it was a really weird gimmick show. Still, it was super beast to see Kenta once again in such a main event outing, and he did the best. He kind of took the antics that Osawa always had and kind of made his own stuff around it, as well as he did like stupid dances to hit like double foot stomps and everything like that, just to kind of fuck with him, so to speak. The crowd reactions in this match and post-match, of course, were very interesting as well, as you notice that especially these big Noah crowds have always a lot of Osawa-only fans in it. So Kenta was sometimes booed during the match, but he was booed when he wanted it to. It felt like he wanted to lean into getting booed at points and trolled Osawa and stuff like that, and destroyed his stances where he got booed afterwards and everything like that, and mocked him. So it felt like, okay, he saw that he was getting booed and just leaned totally into it, which I personally really enjoyed because it just shows he's a great dickhead in my opinion at least. Following the Sumo Hall main event, it was kind of quiet around Kenta for the next couple of months, as he mostly teamed with Keno and Okazaki in successful 6-man tag matches against kind of every team that they faced, really. With the only, so to speak, bigger thing that they had going on was a tag team match at an Osaka Ideon Arena show, where Kaito and Keno defeated Kenta Naomichi Marufuji. So Maru Ken getting back together in 20 minutes in a solid, not good, not great, just straight up solid tag team match. Another more or less bigger thing that he had was a street fight against Maibach Taniguchi, of course his former tag team partner, as part of No Mercy. Why did it take this for me so long? That was more or less just okay, so to speak, just an okay match. And then we ended up at New Japan, at Noah 25th anniversary New Departure Day 1, where in the opening match, Kenta and Yuta Mayuaki lost their match to Daiki Urashima and Naomichi Marufuji. But the big thing was coming off the main event, as Keno defeated Osawa to win the GHG heavyweight title in around 22 minutes with the octopus kick to become a 4-time champion. And Keno was then challenged by Kenta for a match on the very next day, on New Departure Day 2 in Korakuen Hall on July 20th. And July 20th should become the time where Kenta once again goes to the top of Pro Wrestling Noah, as after 28 minutes, Kenta defeated Keno to become the new GHG Heavyweight Champion, the 2-time GHG Heavyweight Champion, and the first time he wins the GHG Heavyweight title since 2013, where back in 2013 he had like a 340-day run where he won the belt from Murashima in a great match in Osaka, if I remember this match correctly, and lost it, and again, of course, against Murashima nearly a year later on the big New Year Korakuen Hall show for Pro Wrestling Noah. His run back then was really good, from what I imagine. What I remember at least. I really enjoyed the match, of course, against Nakajima, the match against Marufuji at Rika Coliseum, I believe it was. It was also really good. He had the fun outing against Takashi Sugiura at one of the Korakuen Hall shows that was like really good. It's more like that. The match against Maibach Taniguchi. He had some interesting challenges in between as well, with Mikey Nichols and Shane Hayes both challenging in smaller cities, I believe it was. And overall, it was a good run. But it was his only run that he had on top of Pro Wrestling Noah, which was interesting because he left for WWE shortly after. Now, over a decade later, 11 years later, he has once again the chance to show what he can do as the world champion of the promotion, and was well deserved at the time. The match itself was fantastic, but I will talk about it more in detail in tomorrow's video to take this away. The match itself was, of course, incredible. He deserves that win. It was a hard-striking match, but it was more or less interesting to see what he can do with the belt, and second of all, that he deserves to hold the belt in the first place. He had a good year so far until that point. His tag matches with Keno and Uka Sasaki were very good. His big match situations that he had to that point, which weren't really a lot, were great, with this, of course, being the big standout. He had, for example, other singles matches that I really enjoyed outside of Noah. Against Daiki Urashima on the Keno produced show was a match that was like really, really good. As an example, I liked his match against Mike Satana, I believe it was, in House of Glory. It had like a really dumb finish, but the match itself was really fun. So from then on, he was the GHG Heavyweight Champion for the second time, and it was interesting for Noah because nobody really knew, okay, how consistent can he be on top? And his first defense was against none other than Naomichi Marufuji. And you know what? People know my opinion about Naomichi Marufuji. And if you don't, be lucky that you don't. Well, you know what? I will say it. I don't like Naomichi Marufuji in 2025. I think he has a huge ego. He totally overrates himself and his importance to the company. And I feel like he's just a mark at this point of this stuff. And the match against Kenta kind of showed that. I get it. if you have Kenta's world champion, you gotta run a match against Naomichi Marufuji, because it's kind of a rule, so to speak, in the sense that, it's Kenta and Marufuji, the long-time rivals, long-time tag team partners, and everything like that. You gotta run them against each other. But the match itself showed why you shouldn't put Naomichi Marufuji in such big matches anymore, because he's clearly not on the level to do that. The last 5 minutes aside, where they completely botched multiple GTS tries, especially Marufuji wrestled like a sandbag at some points and tried. It wasn't really like that he sandbagged Kenta. It was like he wrestled like a sandbag. He just was there. And it was really sad to see. But outside of that, I thought even the first opening minutes were like not good and really boring. It took a long time to get going. It took a long time for Marufuji to get something interesting done. And it just felt like it was there. It was a weird match. I did not enjoy it at all, sadly. And I wish I would have enjoyed it, because it would have been a cool throwback match if that match really worked out, but it didn't. And Marufuji just was gassed hard. He shouldn't be in these situations, and I hope Noah learned from that, mixed with the N1 victory run that followed up with him, which he wasn't like good at all, to be completely honest. It sucked. It just sucked. The match just sucked, sadly. What can I say? But Kenta then went on to wrestle in the N1 victory. And I will be quickly talking about his matches, nothing too much in detail, because his matches were like just there as champion. But as I said, he entered the match as champion, the tournament as champion. On the first night, he suffered a devastating loss against Kaito Kiyomiya in the main event of the Korakuen Hall show, and I thought this was a very good Korakuen Hall main event. Not on the level that you would expect these two to have a match of, but it felt like, at least at that point, it felt like they were holding back for a bigger match down the road. And I can totally see that still being the case, even though he dropped the belt already at the time of the video, like everyone knows. But I don't think it's like totally unlikely that Kaito gets the belt down the line and will run this back eventually. But still, it was like 30 minutes long. Kaito won the match. It was somewhat of a sprint, somewhat of a typical tournament and one match, where matches just go under 50 minutes and never really reach the heights that they should do. It's weird with the N1. They never have like Sano matches, but everything peaks at like goodish. The crowd was really into that whole thing, and they slapped each other the whole time and kicked each other. And it was really cool to see, because it was Kenta's first tournament match after he left New Japan, of course, and it felt like the first tournament he really went into in a role that was important and was told to fill a role that was important. He then lost his second match afterwards on September 11th as well, in Okayama against Manabu Soya. That was more or less a surprising result, but it also told an interesting story that Kenta, even though he is the champion, at this time just isn't on the level of maybe everyone else in terms of his fitness and his consistency, because he hasn't been used to wrestling so many singles matches in a row in a long time. So him dropping the first two matches against tournament skilled wrestlers that have been performing in tournaments better than him in the last couple of years was a cool story. So he needed to do a comeback, and he did with his first win against Daga in a typical Team 2000X match that I still liked. It wasn't something good, it was just solid. His next 2 points he scored against Masaki Tamiya, that he will be talking about later on, in a main event match. I thought was good, not great, just also good. Kitamiya dominated from like the beginning and stayed on top until the very end, where then Kenta did his typical comebacks and won the match. Then Kenta scored another 2 wins over Ulko Sasaki and Katsuyuki Fujita. Both typical solid matches. I think the Fujita match was likely the lowlight of Kenta's tournament, but it was also like the most interesting match, because you just didn't know what to expect from these two, and seeing Kenta just beat him was like very funny. And then on the final day, where Kenta still had the chance to go through, he dropped points to Tetsuya Endo, with Tetsuya Endo getting the big win over him. That was a cool match. I liked this one a lot. Overall, I would say his tournament was good, not great, not mid, just good. Typical 6 out of, like, on average, 6.5 out of 10 matches, sometimes 7 out of 10 matches, sometimes 6 out of 10 matches, but nothing like really below that. Maybe I would put the Kaito match at like 7.25 out of 10, maybe 7.5 at best. But outside of that, a typical, very good tournament in the sense of what a good tournament is in pro wrestling now, because it's not really much. Kenta then went on to defend his GHC heavyweight title against Masaki Tamiya, the winner of the N1 victory at Wrestle Odyssey. And before that, we had a funny situation where Masaki Tamiya ordered Kenta that if he beats him, Kenta has to resign from Pro Wrestling Noah, and that dates back 23 years. I don't think it was on the day, but around 23 years in October 2002, where Kensuke Sasaki announced his resignation from Pro Wrestling Noah, from New Japan Pro Wrestling, and they both recreated the image where Masa hold in the letter of resignation to the cam, exactly like Kensuke Sasaki did 23 years before that. The match against Masaki Tamiya then at Wrestle Odyssey, I would say, was a disappointment, so to speak, because it wasn't really a match itself. It was just an angle to the return of Yoshiki Nomura, because the majority of the match was pretty good. I liked the opening 10 minutes, and then we randomly went into the side quest of Masaki Tamiya seeing Yoshiki Nomura ringside, and Inamura then, of course, helped in the end to take out the Team 2000 X goons. And then Kenta successfully defeated Masaki Tamiya to defend his title once again and end a Sumo Hall main event show on top by getting challenged by Yoshiki Nomura. Man! Like I said, the match was kind of a disappointment because it was like the last 10 minutes were really that interesting, because it had an entire middle stretch with Yoshiki Nomura built in for absolutely like no real reason, in my opinion, at least. Still. And I think they could have had a much, much better match. At least I would assume so, if they just wrestled straight up. Because the wrestling parts in this match itself, especially towards the end and the opening stretch, were really good. They were like super well done, super interesting, super intensive, and also stiff as hell. Personally, I would at least say there is potential there to run this match back down the road, but I don't think that Masaki Tamiya will ever land in this spot again. I'm unsure if Kenta will ever win the world title again. Still, solid match, maybe a bit underwhelming for Sumo Hall main event. I think this could have worked much, much better at a Korakuen Hall show. Then we go on to the defense against Yoshiki Nomura, and this is also a match I will be talking about in detail more tomorrow. So in the end, Yoshiki Nomura wins the GHC heavyweight title and defeats Kenta in one of the best Noah matches of the year. I will talk about in detail why tomorrow, but to see Nomura just overwhelming Kenta throughout this entire match, just destroying it, was great to watch. Kenta was so good in this match. Nomura was fantastic in this match, and they made, in my opinion, a very good outing here together, with Kenta's run then ending in 111 days. And around, I think, 2 successful defenses against Masaki Tamiya and Naomichi Marufuji, and of course the title matches where he won the belt against Keno and the match that he lost the belt against Nomura. And I think it's kind of puts together his run really well. The beginning and the ending were great. The middle part was kind of underwhelming for circumstances out of his control. Still, I feel like he carried the torch of being the center of Noah really well, and I thought he worked great as champion. It's something I would want to see again, but I also think that it very much showed that what Kenta is supposed to be in 2025. Even though he's a top star, he was put into his decision as kind of like not to a transitional champion, so to speak, but as a champion to just fill a couple of months until Yoshiki Nomura is back and ready to take over as the road as champion. And I think that's totally fine, because let's be real, as cool as Kenta has been in 2025, he's like 44 years old. So there's that. After that, he didn't really do much. He has Takashi Sugiura on the 23rd in Korakuen Hall. Yeah, December 23rd at Korakuen Hall as Sujira's 25th anniversary match. That would be really cool. And with that, I would say we look out at his 2026 and what I expect personally from it. And I think for Kenta, the best thing you can really say is if he just continues what he does now, maybe takes another young guy under his control, which has been more or less building, as he seems to be in a little stable with Hayata, Ulga Sasaki, and Tetsuya. And now I would at least personally expect that two of them, like Kenta and one of them, win the tag belts from Team 2000X at the Nippon Budokan show. At least that is what I would personally do. And I would use exactly Kenta like that. I just put him with our young guys or guys that should get over with the help of him. And he has like the 1 or 2 big time singles matches per year outside of course, N1 Victory, and helps shaping the next generation of pro wrestling. No one helps establishing them. I think that is the best thing that you can really do with him, as he continues, of course, to get older, but also settles in as more of a chiller schedule as part of his age. That is what I really expect from him, like tag team matches, cool tag team matches, where he just keeps up his pace of being just a great wrestler, but also doesn't take away too much focus from Yoshiki Inamura, from Kaito Kiyomiya, from Osawa, and that generation. And with that, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Leave a like and comment down below. Tomorrow we will have our final video on Pro Wrestling Noah. And with that, I would say thank you for listening. Bye bye.